Let's have a look at a couple of example shots taken with the new LUPO Superpanel Full Color 30 RGB W light. And we're also going to do a few comparison shots against the Luxli Timpani 1x1 RGB AW light. So here is a very basic interview setup. I've just used the LUPO Superpanel as my key light, and I'm using a Luxli 1x1 RGB AW light as the backlight, and there's a bit of polyboard fill on the right hand side of Jeff's face there, so we're just looking at how the light performs. I'm also using the optional egg crate here on the light just to control the spill and bring it down to a 40-degree beam angle. So now this is the exact same settings. I haven't touched the camera or changed it, and you can see this is with the Luxli Timpani, and you can see that it doesn't have as much output. We're also using an optional softbox and egg crate on here, but the Luxli doesn't have as much output as the LUPO, so you can see that it's slightly darker. So here's a side-by-side just so you can see the difference. We're pretty much here just looking at output. In terms of these two shots, this is with the exact same camera settings and the light's in the exact same spot, so you can see that the LUPO actually has more output than the Luxli, both of them being used here with optional egg crates and a softbox in the case of the Luxli. So to try and match the exposure a little bit more closely on the camera, I've taken out a 1.2 ND and put in a 0.9 ND just to get the exposure a little closer between those two lights, just to see the difference in terms of how they look. So now this is a different type of test here. We're just going to see how wide the beam spread is and how much of the room I can illuminate. So this is without the egg crate on, so this is a 115-degree beam spread here, and you can see it's illuminating up the entire room pretty well. Now let's have a look at the Luxli doing the exact same thing. Again, just turning it on and punching it straight into the room here, and you can see it's still doing a very good job. It doesn't have as wide a beam angle as the LUPO. It's not as bright, but it's still filling up this space really well for a single 1x1 panel light. So now let's just look at a split screen between those two different lights. You can see the exact same sort of result is being achieved, both of them with a good spread, good illumination, filling up the room here, both doing a pretty good job. Now similar test again, this time I'm just going to bounce the LUPO straight into the roof, so it's just pointing straight up into that roof, and you can see that it's doing a pretty good job of illuminating up a dark room, just putting enough sort of fill in there that it doesn't look overly forced. Nice to be able to do this with a 1x1 size panel. And again, the Luxli doing the exact same thing, bouncing it straight up into the roof. As you can see, not as much illumination as the LUPO, and indirectly bouncing the light as I'm doing in this case, you don't quite get as good a results because the output of the light isn't as high. And again, just as a comparison, we'll do a split screen between both of those, and you can see the difference there. The LUPO a little bit brighter, a bit more illumination, and because of that power, being able to throw it up into a roof gives you a better result than you'll get with the Luxli.